Hey guys, so today we are going to be creating a fidget spinner like the one I have here. So your fidget spinner can have as many sides as you want. I think the max could probably be around 8 or 9, but mine has 6 here and I have a one that has 3. So it really depends on how you want it. I just first pulled up an image of what I wanted, so you could like search 6-sided, oops, fidget spinner and you'd get some good results. Alright, so let's go ahead and start. So I'm gonna go to Tinkercad, and of course you're gonna log in and use the class code. And I'm gonna click Create New Design as always. And so let's start. So before we start, there are a couple settings that we're gonna have to change. And I'm gonna move my head a little bit up here. So there are exactly 3 settings that we're gonna want to change. So the first one is over here at the left. So I'm gonna click on uh, the last one, and which says switch to either perspective or orthographic. So I'm going to click on switch to orthographic, or the flat view. So mine looks flat like this. The second thing I'm going to change is the edit grid. So if I go to the right here, if I click on edit grid, currently our unit is millimeters, and here in America we like to use inches, so I'm going to use inches. So I'm going to click on inches, and I'm going to click update grid. The last set I'm going to change is the snap grid, and I think I've mentioned this before. The snap grid is how fluid your objects are going to move. So we want ours to be completely fluid, and I'll tell you guys later why. So I'm going to change that to 1 over 64, and that's going to be my setting. So those are the 3 settings I'm going to change, and we should be good to go ahead and start. So if we look at the fidget spinner, we can kind of see some basic shapes that we can use. So here I see a cylinder. I see perhaps maybe a circle to kind of make this groove here. So let's go ahead and start. So I'm going to first drag out a cylinder, since that was the first thing I saw. So I'm going to drag out a cylinder, and I'm going to keep the length and the width 1. I'm going to keep that the same. I am going to change the height though, and I'm going to change some of my settings on the right. So for the height, I'm going to make mine 0.25 inches tall. I'm also going to change the settings I have here on my right. So I'm going to turn my sides. I'm going to turn this all the way up. And I'm going to turn my segments all the way up as well. So it should look really smooth. So when you guys 3D print this, it's really smooth. At the top here, I'm going to click on my cylinder again. I'm going to press Control D. And that's going to duplicate my object. Then I'm going to drag that out. So what I'm trying to make here is this hole here, and I'm also going to try to make this black part here to have the 2 different colors. So we're first going to make the hole. So I'm going to work on this one, and I'm going to make the length 0.75 and the width 0.75, like that. And I'm going to turn it to a hole. I'm going to press hole up here. Then I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to click align, and I'm going to click on this one again. And I'm going to click on the center for the width and the center for the length. Alright, so before I do that, I'm actually going to click on the solid one I have out here. I'm going to click Control D to duplicate it, and I'm going to just drag it out so I have something else to work with when we group these. So then I'm going to select both of these, and then I'm going to click Group. So I should have this right here in the middle. And so that's going to be this outer part. Now we have to create this inner part. So for the inner part, I'm going to drag this one out, and I'm going to press Control D yet again, and I'm going to just keep that there. I'm going to work on this one first. So first I'm going to make this one 0.75 by 0.75, like this. Then I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to make it a lot smaller. So I'm going to make it 0.5 by 0.5 for the width, 0.5 for the length, 0.5. And I'm going to turn the smaller one into a hole. And after I do that, I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to click Align. I'm going to click on this one again, the solid one, and I'm going to align it to the middle for the width and to the middle for the length. And I'm going to select these and I'm going to click group. Alright, so once I do that, I'm just going to turn my color. I'm going to turn it black since it's black here. Here. And then I'm going to turn this one red since we have it red over there. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out a box. And when I drag out the box, I'm going to change 2 dimensions. So I'm going to change the length, and that's how tall it is. So from front to back, I'm going to change this to 1.25. I'm going to click enter. The next thing I'm going to change is the height, and we're going to keep everything 0.25 inches tall. So 0.25, and I'm going to click enter. I'm going to go back to my top view, and then I'm going to select both of these, just these 2, not the one I have here on my right. I'm going to click align, and then I'm going to click on this one again, and then I'm going to click on the middle for the width and the middle for the height. Alright, and so it might make it easier to change this into a different color, like that perhaps. Then I'm going to drag this one, I'm going to drag it down, just any random amount, and then I'm going to type in some numbers. So for the one arrow that's pointing to the right or to the left, it might be to the left or to the right for you, I'm going to make this 0. And then for how much we're going to move it for the length, I'm going to make this 0.625. I'm going to click enter. And I actually kind of like this blue color, so I'm going to change my color scheme to this blue. Alright, so after I do this, I'm going to click on what we have up here. And just so you guys can see the difference, I'm going to change the color of this one. I'm still going to keep my blue color scheme later. But I'm going to click on this one up here, and I'm going to click Control D. And so after I do that, I'm just going to drag the one that we just duplicated out about here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this one at the bottom, and I'm going to click Ungroup. Once I ungroup it, I'm going to change the size of this hole in the middle. So I'm going to change this to about 0.5. So 0.5 for the width and 0.5 for the length. Once I do that, I'm going to select both of these circles, these cylinders, and I'm going to click Align. And I'm going to align both of them to the middle of each other. Alright, then I'm going to select both of them again, and I'm going to click a group, or Control G on your keyboard. Once I do that, I'm going to select this bottom cylinder and the rectangle, just like that. I'm going to click Line, and then I'm going to click on the rectangle again. I'm going to align it to the middle and to the top. So this one right here. So not the middle, but the top one right here. Then I'm going to click on the cylinder again, the orange cylinder I have here. I'm going to move it down, just a random amount of units, and then I'm going to type in my box as always. So for how much I want to move it down, I only want to move it 0.5 inches down, so half an inch. Then for how much I want to move it left or right, I'm just going to make this 0, since we want to keep it still in the middle. Alright. So now I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to ungroup. I'm going to ungroup it. That way we can still see our what we grouped it with, the hole that we had before. I'm going to click ungroup for this one as well. And we want to do this before we group everything together so that we have the holes in the center. Alright, so I ungroup both of these. Now I'm going to select everything except, of course, the black one. I'm going to click group. And once I group, you should have something like this. So we should have our 2 holes, 2 different sizes. And that's looking good so far. So I'm going to align this. So I'm going to select both of these. And I'm going to align, click align. I'm going to click on this one again. I'm going to align it to the middle for the width and to the top right here for the length. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually move it some amount. And I'm going to change these numbers. So for how much I want to move it down, I'm going to change that to 0.1. 1, 2, 5. And for how much I want to move it to the left or right, I'm going to make this 0. And I'm going to click enter. So now it should be perfectly in the center, like so. So now I'm going to select everything and I'm going to group them. So I'm going to click on group. And so when it does that, of course, it's going to change it to one of the colors. And to get your color back, all you have to do is click on solid and then click multicolor. And we should have our color scheme back. Next, what I'm going to do is we're going to finish making this thing. So right now, we've actually done about like 80% of the work, I would say. And so if we were making a 5, like this one, a 6 sided fidget spinner, we could easily make this. So we would not have to recreate each one of the little sides as we just did. All we'd have to do is duplicate. So, and I'll show you how I want to do that. So I'll duplicate, I'll press Control D, and then I'll move this one out. So this next step depends on how many sides you want to add. And so this requires a little bit of math. So there is 360 degrees in a circle. And so a fidget spinner is a circle. At the center is a circle. And so each one of these sides rotates around the circle. It's an equal distance too. So I'm going to bring out my calculator here. I'm going to just type calculator in Google. And this next step, it depends on how many sides you want to do. So I'm going to do 360 degrees divided by how many sides I want. And I'm going to make, let's say, what's a good number? Let's do maybe 5 sides. Let's do 5 sides. Since we did 6 before, let's go down 1. So I'm going to do 360 divided by 5. And I got 72. So that's how many degrees I'm going to be turning. And I'll show you what I mean by that for a second. So if we were doing 3 sides, which I know probably most of you guys are, I would do 360, and then I would do divided that by 3. And then you get 120. So that's the number that you're going to use. So I have 5 sides, so mine's going to be 72 degrees. So when I do that, I'm going to first duplicate, like I said before, and then I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it first 72 degrees. I'm going to click enter. So when I do that, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drag this out as close as I can to the center of the other one. So if yours is like this, then you didn't drag it out correctly. So you're going to want to just drag it until it's exactly in the center. Perfectly aligned with that one. Alright, that should be good. Alright, next I'm going to click on this one, the one that we just moved. I'm going to click Control D again. I'm going to move it out. And guess what? I'm going to rotate it again 72 degrees. So I'm going to type in 72. And I'm going to click enter. And then I'm going to move it. And so the reason why we're using 72, or whatever number you found when you divided how many sides by 360, is so that they're an equal distance apart from each other. So it'll be a perfect fidget spinner. So after we do that one, we're going to do it 2 more times since we have 3 sides done. I'm going to do Control D, drag this one out, and then rotate it again 60 degrees. So can't see the box yet. So I'm going to do 72. I think I said 60. It should be 72 if you're doing a 5-sided one. Then I'm going to drag it as close as I can to the center. And if you were doing an even-sided fidget spinner, like a 6-side or 4-side, you could do this a lot easier by just making 2 and then duplicating it, or making 3 and duplicating it. So you could do that as well, but mine is an odd number of sides, so I can't do that. Alright, and then for the last one, I'm just going to do Control D again, and then rotate it 72 degrees. And then I'm just going to move it as close as I can to the center. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It can be kind of hard to see at times. Alright. Then I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to click group. So once I group, I should have my fidget spinner. I should have a good amount of my fidget spinner. So this is, it looks kind of like a star since it has 5 sides. So that's pretty cool. Now all we have to do is add the middle part, the part that we hold on to when we spin it. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to drag out a cylinder. I'm going to change the width and the length. I'm going to change the width to 0.375. And I'm going to change the length to 0.375 as well. Then I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to click on line, click on my fidget spinner again, click on the center, and then I'm going to click on the center. But if you have a 5-sided or an odd number of sides, it's not going to align it exactly to the center. So what you could do is you could just click on your fidget spinner again and ungroup. And you'd have to do this a couple times. You have to click ungroup several times until you have something like this. And this kind of looks a little bit intimidating, but it's really not. So what I would do next is I would click on this, the one I have in the center, and click on any of the holes I have in the center. So I'm just going to click on this one again. And I'm going to click align, and I'm going to click on this one again. And I'm just going to center it. Alright. So now I'm just going to click on this one. I'm going to hide it real quick. And how I do that is I go up here to the top right, and I click on this little light bulb that hides. I'm going to go back on top. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to click group again. And so your color might go away, but you could just go back, and this would be a little bit tedious, but you'd have to take out your circles one by one. So I'm just going to hide this. Take out my circle. Hide. Hide this one. Take out my circle. And this step is only if you have more than an odd number of sides. Hide. Oh, and I almost forgot, each of these go in the middle, but that's fine. So hide. Take this one, sorry, hide, I meant. And then take this one out. Alright. Gonna bring everything back. Gonna select these. Just gonna delete everything except one, because we only need one. And I'm gonna just first hide this middle one again. Go back on the top, and then group all of these back. And so if you wanted to add those back, I'll just select these, group them, change my color to black. And this part would kind of take a while, but I would have to ungroup again and then put them back in the center. But I'm just going to estimate. I'm going to use my eye, Control D, I'm going to drag it to approximately the center. And this one wouldn't matter as much since it's on the inside. So as long as you covered everything, you should be good. Oh. Alright, that took a while. So next I'm just going to bring back what I hid before. I'm just going to click unhide at the top there. And before I unhide, I should select everything and group them. And then change it again to multicolor. And then ungroup and then unhide. I'm going to change my height to 0.25. Next, I'm going to click on work plane. I'm going to drag it either on the top here or the fidget spinner. I'm going to click on the top. Then I'm going to drag out another cylinder. I'm going to change the width and the length. I'm going to change it to 0.75 and 0.75. Then I'm going to click on work plane and just drag out anywhere to go back. I'm going to change the height to 0.125. I'm going to click enter. Again, I'm going to change my settings so it's smooth, and for this one as well. Then I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to hold shift and click on the one on the bottom. I'm going to click align, click on the one on the bottom again, go back to my top view, and then align it in the center. Alright, next I'm going to click on my fidget spinner, and I'm going to hide it. So I'm going to click right here, hide. Then I'm going to select these, and I'm going to group them. And I'm just going to change, actually I'm not going to change my color yet. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do Control D, and I'm going to rotate the second one 180 degrees. Then I'm going to move this down. I'm going to move it down minus 0.125. And so if I group these, well actually I'm not going to group it yet. If I bring back my fidget spinner, it should be exactly, it should look like it's been mirrored to the bottom. So we can have this, but we're going to make the distance a little greater between them. So I'm going to click on this one first, and I'm going to drag it up about 0.015 inches to give it some space. So if we actually print this, it'll work. Then I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to go down. I'm going to make it minus 0.015, and I'm going to click enter. After we do that, I'm going to click shift, hold the one on the top and on the bottom, and I'm going to click group. Then I can change my color, and voila, we have a fidget spinner, a 5-sided fidget spinner. I don't know if those exist, but we have it right here. And so you can make this with any amount of sides. Of course, I think you'd probably max out at around 8 or so, but this is a 6-sided one, 5-sided, and I have a 3-sided one back there. So really, you could do a lot with this. And so again, the challenge for you guys is to create a gear using the same principles as this. So a gear looks a lot like this, and it's made the same way, having to rotate each side so that they're an equal distance apart. So I want you challenge you guys to make a gear using these same principles, and we'll see you guys next week. Have fun designing and be creative.